The friends, I just finished another surgery. In and out of the hospital seems like these days. Anyways, everything went well. They just put a stent on my renal artery, and that was done in order to save my left kidney. So all is good, but I'm still recuperating, and therefore, instead of doing a full-on video because I haven't had a chance to prepare, I wanted to show you one that was done a while back that I find very useful. So I will catch you next week, Lord willing, and I wish you a great day. Ciao. I'm in Dallas right now visiting a surgeon for my next back surgery because these past couple of days, the lack of sleep and more severe back pain may be definitely more irritable and created some tension even in the relationship that I have with Jane, my wife. Okay, guys, transparency time right now. You know the routine. You appreciate and enjoy the relationship with your partner, with your spouse, and then suddenly some strange feeling creeps up and spoils the record. And my problem is that I continue to tackle projects that need to be done around the house, which probably I should avoid given the condition. But if I don't, they're going to drag on. So I delegate some of the tasks to Jane, but they bit me back because they needed fixing or redo, and that robbed me of some precious time. So it escalated the level of frustration. And I'm sure that some of you have experienced what I'm talking about. So what is it that sets us on a path that robs us of laughter and joy? Let me play psychologist today and touch upon a few determining factors. One is indifference. We got neglect, contempt, and bickering. And these are probably the most important threats. Now, indifference is when you start to feel like the other person fundamentally is no longer caring about you anymore, or you don't care about them, or what they feel, or what they think, or who they are. And there is this sense of, I just don't care. You have lost interest. But I think it is more than just losing interest, because all of a sudden you start doing something differently. You shame the other person. They're less important to you. And this is key because ultimately all of us as human beings, we want to feel loved in a relationship that matters. We are creature of meaning and need validation. It is important that we feel we matter to somebody, someone that wants your well-being, is proud of you, is benevolent towards you, and so on. So when you are indifferent, the whole thing dissipates, and that coldness creeps in, that weird sense of estrangement and disconnect. Now, the second one is neglect. And here people basically take each other for granted. They take more care of their car, their dogs, their business, their activity, their sport than their partner. Everything but you gets priority. And when you're dating, you're all in. But once you tie the knot, we start to feel a little complacent and lazy. And a relationship is not going to live on its own like a cactus. Then we have contempt, which seems to be a killer, because with contempt, there is that mortification, that implied message of you amount to nothing. I can kill you with a look. That one eyebrow that goes up in a special way to convey you're toast. Or we lash out with that tone. That tone in your voice. You know what I'm talking about. And finally, the bickering. That is kind of like a low intensity, chronic warfare. It is the notion that every time one person says something, the other person has to retaliate. So it becomes a constant negative friction, not a positive spark, just negative heat at all times. And these criticisms produces the opposite effect of what we seek, which is to feel good about ourselves, to feel valued, loved, cared for. And instead, you end up feeling lousy, unloved, uncared for, devalued, inadequate. And when you are in a critical mode, you are rarely reflecting because you're constantly reacting. And reflection requires a little bit of time in between sentences, a moment where you're actually thinking about what the other person is trying to convey before you automatically assume that you know what they want to say. And when you run on this automatic pilot, generally, you assume the negative, and thus you criticize. You do not think that the other person has good intentions. And criticism, guys, sits on top of a mountain of disappointments, unmet needs, unfulfilled longings. So how do we even find ourselves in this place after having been in love for so long, right? Well, God tells us to leave the old behind. The old has been crucified, has passed away, and replace it with the new. Isaiah 43:18 says, do not call to mind the former things. Pay no attention to the things of old. So what are the things of old? Well, those are the former ways which we were molded in, and the place where we learned about closeness, trust,
trust, loyalty, love, commitment, taking, giving, all the essential traits of a relationship. And we learn that at home. We learn the good, the bad, and the ugly because we saw it all as children. We saw the fights, we saw the love, we saw the coldness, the intimacy. And whether we like it or not, we bring that with us. Now, what's fun is that often we promise ourselves, I will never be like that. I will never talk like this. And you know what? As an apple, we do not find ourselves that far from the tree. So if we're not to call to mind the former things, to me, that implies that these things are not really dead inside of us. I think they're dormant. They're kind of buried somewhere, ready to pop up. So let's try to get pragmatic here in order to curb some of these issues. Whenever you're saying you never do something, what you imply is, I wish that you would do such and such. So state your wish. Just say the things that you will want. However, be careful on how you address it, because sometimes we get into this long list of always and never, and it can easily escalate into a tit for tat shooting match. You never take me to the movies. You never buy me flowers. You never ask me about my day. You always talk about yourself. Now, as you already know, probably leave the never and the always out of it. And then instead of saying we never go to the movies, if you really want to go to the movies, say it simply. Listen to the difference. We never go to the movies versus, you know, what I really miss is when we used to go to the movies. It would be fun if we went again. Or I'm always the one doing the dishes. You never do the dishes. Or, you know, I had a really long day today and I'm exhausted. Would you please do the dishes tonight? Do you hear the difference? Do you see which one is the one that most likely is going to get you the thing that you're asking for? Now you may think, but I'm right. And it's true that that person never does something. And I would say you may be right, but it is not going to get you what you want. So ask yourself, do you want to be right or do you want to stay married? Now I'm finishing on a light note because, guys, life is too short to hold grudges. Well, taking off now for Chattanooga, and I will catch you next week. Ciao.